The world has changed. America has changed. If something were to happen tomorrow, how self-sufficient would you be? Could you grow your own food? Could you sustain your own livestock? Could you survive? This is the WeGrowOurs show with Nick and Don. Nick and Don talk about everything from politics to planting. They cover techniques, methods, and tips on how to not only survive, but thrive. Visit the website at WeGrowOurs.com. Lock and load. This is the WeGrowOurs show. Get your grow on.
Welcome back to the WeGrowOurs show, where everything is fun and awesome.
Everything is awesome.
I just watched that stupid movie last night. Now I get why that song sticks in people's head. Ugh. But my nephews loved it, so anyway. Well, Don, how was your week?
It was wonderful and busy.
Wonderful and busy? Well, as soon as I can go to growing rabbits full time, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to quit that day job I got.
I don't blame you, Nick.
Ugh. Anyway, we got a great show planned for you this week. We are going to talk about livestock integration. Basically, the ability to link multiple species together and utilize their waste products to feed another.
That's right. Now, rabbits, quail, aquaponics, the whole 9 yards.
That's right. Now, I'm not saying we're going to force feed poop into another species. It just doesn't work out that way.
Probably not a good idea.
No, I wouldn't enjoy that. I mean, survival's one thing, but come on. Anyway, so let's see. What is the first thing to do with livestock integration?
Well, I think you got to figure out where to start. So for this show, we're going to concentrate on small lots, probably the normal HOA to maybe an acre.
Yeah.
And that's a good spot to start. So you've got to decide what's the easiest way to get the most bang for your buck. So let's start with rabbits.
Sounds good for me. I actually am a big fan of rabbits. So big that I started with 5 and ended up with around 1,600. Now, I don't recommend everybody go out there and buy 1,600 animals and hope for the best. Like I said, I started with 5 rabbits in my backyard. Rabbits are great because they're super efficient. They're efficient on their food intake, the amount of time it takes to handle them, and also space. It doesn't require a whole lot of space.
My favorite part about the rabbits, and we're talking about meat rabbits,
That's
just
right.
in case this isn't clear yet.
Yes.
So the best part about them is that we can utilize their waste in so many ways. And when we talk about integration, it's really one of the keys to it.
That's right. I would say that rabbits are the keystone to a good, efficient livestock integration setup. So if there's any militant vegans in the audience today and you'd like to discuss how wrong we are, we'll make you pay for it. But the number is 602-277-KFNX, which is 5369.
Now I'm scared.
Oh, come on. Yeah, Don just turned red. Like, oh, no, we're going to do battle in the air. No, I'll handle any of that. As a person that has taken responsibility to grow my own food, I run into that a lot, that people think it's weird. It is weird. But the norm right now is stick your head in the sand and not know where your food's coming from.
Yeah, rabbits are cute and fluffy. I'll grant you, and they're beautiful. They're cuddly. They're fun. Mm-hmm. But most people are out there eating chickens. I don't see a whole lot of difference. And you can go with other protein sources. Chickens are wonderful. Quail, any other type of protein source is good too. But we want to add that protein source to the integration.
Exactly. And for those of you that are in an HOA and a homeowners association, chickens are not the answer. You're going to get to know your neighbors real freaking quick if you go with chickens. When we started out, we tried that. We tried having chickens. And the ones we bought, they were asleep when we brought them home. They were very docile. It was nighttime. We're like, all right, this is going to be easy. Next day, they were unclipped. They were clucking and making all kinds of noise, not crowing. They were all females, and they ended up in all of our neighbors' yards. So that's what's great about rabbits is they don't have wings. They don't crow. They don't stink. They don't make any noise except for when they're breeding, and even then it's not very loud. So they're the perfect urban livestock. From the rabbits, we'll talk about their efficiency real quick. They only require about 4 ounces of feed a day, which is by weight, not by volume. By volume, it's about 6 ounces. And that equates to about 7 cents worth of rabbit food per day. Around, $30 a year, in that range. You can raise rabbit for about 78 to 80 cents a pound live weight off of rabbit feed available in the stores. But we're going to talk a little bit about fodder, and fodder can be the answer to increased feed costs. Fodder is much cheaper than if you were to go in and buy commercially available feed.
Yeah, now by fodder, what we're talking about is sprouting barley or other types of seeds. You can do wheat, black
oil sunflower seeds.
Black oil sunflower seeds.
The idea is a seed in seed form is only about 25% digestible. That's the average. If you sprout it, it is now 80% digestible. If you sprout it for 6 days, it now weighs 6 times as much as what it started as. So you buy a bag of barley for, we'll call it $20. $20 bag of barley will end up feeding 600 servings of rabbit food if you go by 4 ounces a day.
And that brings that cost from 70-something cents, 80 cents down quite dramatically.
Below 20 cents a pound, actually, in some cases. But that's when you're getting the barley for $4 a bushel, $8 a bushel, in that range.
So that's putting we're putting the food into the rabbits. Mm-hmm. What do we get out of the rabbits?
Oh, lots and lots of meat. In fact, if you're familiar with cattle, and I love a good T-bone steak, don't get me wrong.
You grew up in cattle country.
That's right. Southwest Wisconsin's where I'm from, and we know our beef.
And in fact, we did an episode on the origin of awesome, I believe was the title of it, right, which is what you chose. So you can go to WeGrowOurs.com and check out that if you want more history on Nick, and if you want to learn about cattle.
That's right. We had my dad on the show, and so I said the origin of awesome because I credit a lot of what I've learned to him. But anyway, cattle, for every pound of beef that you produce, it requires 9 pounds of feed. You give me 9 pounds of feed, I can produce 6 pounds of rabbit. So it's much more efficient than cattle. And off of the rabbits, you're getting, let's see, what's the rabbit math here? One breeding female will produce 8 kindles per year. And each kindle it's a litter. You can count on about 8 babies per kindle, 8 kits per kindle. That's 64 babies per year. And if you butcher them at 5 pounds, that's 320 pounds of live rabbit per year per breeding female. Now, just
a lot of meat.
It is. It's funny because the survival amount of protein that you need is 75 grams a day, right?
Right.
Right around there, and that's 45 pounds of protein per year that you need. Pure protein. Rabbits are 21% protein, so dress weight on 320 pounds of rabbit meat will end up being 215 pounds of dressed carcass.
That's what you put in the freezer.
Exactly. Which is exactly 45 pounds.
So nature's done the math for us.
Exactly.
Now, I know the first question people are going to say is, well, if I only eat rabbit, I'm going to starve and get protein poisoning or rabbit starvation. Now, address that real quick. If you eat nothing but anything, if you just pick one thing to eat, you're going to have some serious problems. Our kidneys aren't meant to handle super high protein, so you need to cut it with a balanced diet. McDonald's? Or is that not balanced?
No. That'll balance you out on the fat side of it, but no,
I'm pretty balanced on that side already.
Yeah, look, I'm stable. Most of my weight's right there in the middle, so I'm okay there. Just kidding. Anyway, so go ahead.
Along with what comes out, meat, what else comes out? Let's talk about the waste and how we can integrate that into the rest of the systems to continue moving forward.
All right. Well, just a quick side note. Rabbit manure, the reason I got into rabbits originally, yes, I knew I could eat them. I used to hunt them as a kid. But I got into rabbits because they would pelletize unorganized biomass. That means that they poop perfect little Cocoa Puffs It's a size that you can plan on. Now, why would I want pelletized biomass? Well, I happen to be a pyro. We'll give it the official title of biofuels hobbyist. And that's what got me on to the show Doomsday Preppers. I actually made a flamethrower that ran on rabbit manure. So you got to check that out. I think it's still on my website. I don't know. There's at least pictures of it.
It's hostlehair.com.
That's right. So you get this nice little round cocoa puff of a rabbit poop that's easy to move around. The source of fuel I was looking at back then was gasification. It's basically where you heat up biomass with a little bit of fire. You light a little bit of the biomass on fire. You starve it of oxygen, and it produces a fuel-rich smoke. So we'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. Why don't we recap on what we've gone over?
So rabbits, good source of meat.
Excellent.
We can feed them with fodder.
Mm-hmm.
Get that meat down to 80 cents with pellets and
20 cents, 25 cents.
Per pound. Of undressed or dressed?
Dressed.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Heck yeah. And the manure is very useful, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back.
Yeah, when we come back, let's talk about the rabbit waste and what we can do with that, how we can add it to the other systems to really get this integration system going.
What will you do when your stored supplies run out? Are you prepared? Hostile Hair provides equipment and education you need to control your own infinite food supply. We have live food storage systems for rabbits, quail, and other urban livestock for any situation and strategy. Don't be limited by what's on the shelves. Get started with an infinite food source today. Get prepped, stay fed with Hostile Hair. Call 480-331-3761, 480-331-3761, or visit hostlehair.com.
Lock and load. This is the We Grow Our show.
Well, that was a quick break.
Yeah, holy cow. I need to fill it out with a bunch of sponsors so I can actually take a breather.
That's right. So if you have questions along the way, you can go to WeGrowOurs.com/ask-us. You can actually record your questions, and when we do the shows, we bring them right on and answer them.
We'll make you famous.
I don't know if I go that far.
Well, I mean, as soon as I'm famous, I'll make you famous, whatever that is. So, to all four of our listeners out there, no, just kidding.
So we already talked about the rabbits a little bit. Let's talk about the waste and where we can put that and what we can do with it.
All right. So we already talked a little bit about biofuel. In this episode, we're not going to touch on a lot of that. Just know that that's what got me into it. But
yeah, we actually did a show on gasification too. So
that's true. We've got one back there. So go to WeGrowOurs.com and look in the tag cloud next to the episodes and look up gasification. I think there's 2 episodes where we really talked about it in depth. But anyway, that's gasification. We want to feed livestock with poop. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Well, and really the next phase is we take that poop and it's a fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
Creates some amazing soil.
Yep.
But it's not a hot fertilizer. When you hear about chickens, and those are definitely part of this whole system, you can take the chicken waste, but you've got to compost it. Mm-hmm. In fact, composting is another part of this, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But we can take that rabbit waste and we can put it directly in our soil to grow our food.
Yes, it doesn't need to break down. It's mostly nitrate. So you don't have to worry about it over putting too many nitrites and ammonia into your soil. There's one other option, though. You don't have to take the manure and put it right into the soil. You can actually feed it to an organism called the black soldier fly larva.
Absolutely.
And now there's a rough estimate, which is 5 pounds of manure goes in, 1 pound of black soldier flies come out.
Correct.
Is that right? Now, why on earth would you want to make maggots?
Yeah,
it's disgusting, right?
They are, and they create house flies and flies and all this stuff. Now, black soldier flies create black soldier flies.
Yes.
So the grubs turn into this, and they actually keep the house flies away.
That's right. Now, I've heard that the pheromone that they produce also wards off house flies.
Absolutely.
And what's great about them is they actually eat the freshest stuff that's going in there, so it doesn't wait to decompose. They're actually eating it immediately.
That's one cool thing about them is they'll compost raw waste.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, let's say we take 2 tilapia and we fillet them and we eat our fillet. That waste we can throw into the black soldier flies. They'll actually devour that.
Well, they are pretty amazing. And then the best part is they know that their brothers and sisters are going to eat the best, freshest stuff available. So they don't lay their eggs in the food. They lay their eggs above the food so that when the little larva hatches, it falls into it.
I think the best part about it is they harvest themselves.
I was getting to that. So when they get to the cocoon part, then when it's ready to is it pupate? What's the I don't know. I don't know big words. Words are hard. That's why I'm on the radio. Anyway, so they want to get out of the food and go to ground. But if you've got them in a composter that's plastic, they go down and they hit hard plastic. They ride that plastic up.
They'll walk up the ramp.
Exactly. There's a little ramp in the composter. They walk up and they self-harvest. They drop into a bucket where you can then take them and feed them to your quail and to your fish. So
now we're feeding that to. We're feeding the waste of the rabbits to the black soldier flies. Mm-hmm. We've taken the waste of the rabbits and we've added it to our garden. We can also use what's called a rabbit press.
That's right.
And we can take that, compress that waste down, and then put seeds in it to start our plants.
That's right. Make kind of a seed pot, if you will. Oh, let's see. What's next in the... Oh, and all of this is, again, remember, my backyard, I should tell you, I live in an HOA, and I'm pretty sure that the Third Reich is in control of the board of my HOA, because these guys, well, they suck. I'm sorry. But I can't do anything and get away with it. But in my little backyard, I had 50 breeding female rabbits, and we were producing 250 babies a month.
And a lot of waste.
A lot of waste. And I was able to do that under the radar. Nobody knew what was going on back there. I'd have been shut down real quick. But nobody knew. In fact, the day that I moved all my cages out, the neighbors were like, what the heck?
What was he doing back there? Yeah. So once we can, let's talk about the other integration portions. Mm-hmm. Once we take that waste, we've started some seeds with it. We've used it in our gardening, maybe square foot gardening. Mm-hmm. We've combined, if we have land and we can have chickens, some areas in Arizona you can, some you can't. So make sure you check because not all cities allow you to do that. Another option is quail.
Yep.
So we've now got black soldier flies, which are very high in protein. And quail require a high protein feed, which is really hard to find. You've got to go find some turkey starters, what we started with.
And it's really hard to find an organic version of turkey
absolutely. Starter. The non-GMO organic turkey starter is pretty expensive.
Yeah,
so now
I think the price tag actually reads your left arm.
Absolutely. So now we've taken and we've gone down to the regular chicken food, basically scratch, which is 15-18%, somewhere in there, depending on what you're buying. But we're adding the supplement to it, and we're getting quail eggs out of that. So we actually do about 40 quail a week and process. Now, they're very tiny. Really 2 to 3 per person per meal is what you need for a good quail meal. But we also get all of the eggs.
That's true.
So we've got a cage system set up that provides eggs and another source of meat. It allows us to take that black soldier fly, supplement the quail food with it, and then we can take that quail waste and we can actually use it in aquaponics.
Now, quail, speaking of that, I actually have a quail system that I built that is 2 foot by 3 foot, and it's got 6 breeding cages in there, and each breeding cage takes, what is it?
I put 5.
5. You put 5 in yours, so a male and 4 females.
Yeah.
So a male and 4 females, that produces 300 eggs. That's 1,200 eggs per compartment, and there's 6 of those. So 6 times 1,200 is 7,200, I think it is. 7,200 birds a year. That's over 900 pounds of quail breast per year.
Now, we actually use a lot of the eggs. We'll incubate, like I said, we do about 40 a week. So we'll incubate about 50 or 60 of those, and we'll get that breeding cycle going. The rest of them, I never liked pickled eggs, and it always sounded gross to me, but pickled quail eggs are phenomenal.
That's one of those things, pickled anything. My dad eats pickled herring and pickled this, and I'm like, you're weird. Stop it. But pickled quail eggs, man. We had one of our teachers, Scott Yarish, came in and and brought some of those to show off.
That's what got me started on them. We did a homestead conference about a year ago, and Scott Yarsh came in. You can find a link to interview with him as well at WeGrowOurs.com. Again, check out the tag cloud.
Yep.
It's got a lot of information in there. And he brought in pickled quail eggs. I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm done. I've got to make these every day. They're so good. And my kids actually love them too.
Yeah, and it's like a no process deal. You throw those, you hard broil them and throw them on a salad.
Absolutely.
And I don't even eat salad. I mean, I'd be more eggs than lettuce in that thing. But that's also because I'm a fat guy.
And if you're into gourmet cooking, there's nothing better than taking your meat and putting a little quail egg on top of it.
You're all giddy over there, man. See, we enjoy food way too much to be talking about healthy stuff.
So we've got our protein sources. We've talked about rabbit and quail, and again, chickens. Now, chickens, you can't take their waste and put it directly in your garden. You want to compost that.
That's right.
Now, I've actually got a little bit of extra land than compared to what you do. I've got about 1.25 acres.
Oh yeah,
and
show off.
Measure
it out.
We've got the goats. We've got chickens. We've done turkeys and ducks. So we kind of do that whole thing. But our primary food source for vegetables comes from either a square foot garden or an aquaponics system. Mm-hmm. So if you balance things right, you can actually take those quails and put them right over top of your aquaponics system.
That's right.
Now, if anybody's not familiar with aquaponics, what we're doing is we're using fish to grow food. So we're going to discuss that in a few minutes, I think.
All right. Well, maybe give us so you're saying put the quail right over top of the fish tank, right?
Absolutely.
So how does that affect the fish?
Well, you're not actually having the fish eat the waste of the quail. That's part of it. They will help clean that up. And you can even use a catfish to go in there. But quail are some of the messiest eaters I've ever seen.
This is true.
They will dig their food. They will throw it all over the place. And I'd say for every pound of food we give them, they get like 2 ounces. I mean, these things are messy little eaters. So what we've done is by putting the quail over, and you don't want to go, it depends on your amount of water you have and the size of the systems, but by putting a few quail over top of your aquaponics, you can actually feed them, and they will throw that food down, and the fish will come up and eat that. So then we take that fish waste, and now we're starting to grow our vegetables with it.
Now the common fish is tilapia, right, in the aquaponics system?
Yeah, I like tilapia in Arizona the most.
Okay. Now, what percentage of protein do you want to be feeding the tilapia?
Very high.
Very high.
Again, just like quail, you want to around 30% if you can.
Really? So the quail's diet, since they're tossing it all over the place, is actually going to be right in line with what the fish should be eating.
Absolutely.
So you're actually that's a symbiotic relationship if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, you can get organic tilapia food and fish food, really high in protein. A lot of it is fish meal and other things. But when you can take and put those black soldier flies with them, as they drop in, that waste drops down into the tank, the fish will come up and eat that.
Okay. So I guess at that point you just have to worry about how much filtration you have. And that's one of the things I've always pushed in aquaponics. I've been doing aquaponics now for over 10 years. Filtration is one of the keys to the system. There's really 2 things you have to worry about in aquaponics. It's filtration or dilution. You have to have one of those. Either you dilute it enough, which means a lot of water, or you filter out that water. Now that part of that filtration process is with media beds, which means you can use stone. Again, I think we should go back to probably a basics of what is aquaponics. Yeah.
And that's using fish waste to grow food and using the water to create they take that fish waste, that ammonia, and they turn it into plant food. Okay. We use, generally in backyard and small systems, we use media beds in order to filter that out, which allows that bacteria growth, which then feeds everything.
I see. So let's do a quick recap of what we went over. This is the We Grow Ours show on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX, and we're talking about livestock integration, which is basically following the cycle of
making everything work together and getting to what we call a net zero.
Yeah, net zero is the goal. Basically, a system where it doesn't need nutrition until you pull nutrition out of it. That's fair enough, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's with rabbits, rabbit waste going to the black soldier fly larvae, producing food for the quail. Also alongside of that, growing barley fodder, wheat fodder, to feed the rabbits and to feed the quail as well. I was going to ask, did you try feeding your quail any any fodder, or did you stick with the conventional stuff?
We use our fodder mostly to feed to the chickens and to the goats and the rabbits.
Okay. The goats gotta love that.
The goats love fodder. Okay. Yeah. And it's a phenomenal thing because you're really feeding a nice fresh, product to them. So
nice. Well, I really wish I had more room. I'd have some goats in there for sure. And by the way, fodder systems are available at hostlehair.com. We'll just throw that to the little plug in there. So go to hostlehair.com, check out the fodder systems. It is under the fodder tag, or whatever that is. What is it? The tab. That's it.
The tab.
So when we get back, we will be covering a little bit more about livestock integration.
Lock and load. This is the WeGrowOurs show.
Welcome back to the WeGrowOurs show. We're talking about livestock integration, how to feed your food cheap and naturally and organically, if you want to go that route.
Yeah, it's about how to produce your own food, non-GMO, organic, in your backyard. I mean, yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. A lot of people don't have the money to go out and buy full organic. I mean, we all realistically, we do have the money. We would just have to make sacrifices, and not everybody's willing to make sacrifices to.
Yeah, and part of what we're always saying is, we're not asking people to go out and change the way they do it, but change it a little bit.
That's right.
10%. Get 10% of your food from your local farmers markets. Grow it yourself. Teach your kids. This is something that's being lost, and the supermarkets are in business making a ton of money. And people are forgetting how to farm and how to produce their own food. And you respect food a lot more when you grow it yourself.
That's right. Now we're going to take a call from Tiffany in Phoenix and see what she has to say. How's it going, Tiffany? Welcome to the WeGrowOurs show.
Great, thanks. I'm loving your show. I have a quick question for you. Once we get this system set up with the quail and the rabbits and the tilapia, how long is it going to take for it to actually produce something that we can eat?
That's a great question. I'm gonna drop back and let Don answer this one. He's the aquaponics specialist here.
Well, if we're doing an integrated system like that, the quail are probably what's going to produce first. Aquaponics, once you get it set up, it has to go through what's called a cycling process. So our fish aren't going to be big enough at that point to eat, and we've got about 9 weeks before we start growing any plants in there. However, if you get baby quail, they go to about 6 weeks before they start producing eggs, and you can incubate those eggs in only about 2 weeks. So every 16, 17 days, you can have some eggs come out of that. So you can start eating the eggs from the quail right away, and then you can start eating the protein from the quail fairly quickly while everything else grows. So you can actually get started pretty quick. Does that help answer the question?
It does. What breed of quail do you recommend?
That's a matter of preference, but the most popular is Quaternix, the Japanese quail. And I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but they named it after the sound that the male quail makes. And it's supposed to sound like Quaternix, like an onomatopoeia, but I don't know. I haven't made that distinction there.
Yeah, quail are fairly quiet. However, they do make a sound. So your neighbors may come knocking at your door saying, "What is that weird sound we keep hearing?"
And that's plausible deniability. You just tell them that a songbird moved in if you want to keep it under the radar.
Yeah, we're in an HOA too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for your help.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So that's definitely a good question, is time. How long do rabbits take from, let's say I go out and I buy a male and 3 females and set them up?
Well, if you buy them at weaning age, which is 4 weeks, you've got to wait another 5 months before the females hit maturity. Now, they'll hit sexual maturity at 3 to 4 months, but like a human teenager, has the ability to make a baby, but not the instinct to raise the baby, if you will. They're a little young yet. So give them another 2 months. So they're 6 months old, and they'll make good mamas. The males, it varies. Some people say that they wait until they're 8 months old, just so that they're a little bit bigger than the females. The bigger the male, the more submissive the female will be to him. So you're into it about 6 months before you can breed, and then another 2 months before you have a product. But once you get going, you've got a much larger animal with only a little bit more, a little bit increase in butcher time.
Once they breed, what's the gestation period for having the babies?
31 days on average. I've had some go as far as 36.
So we get our rabbits, let's say they're of breeding age. We buy them of breeding age. We're looking at about 30 days. And then another how long until until we can process them?
2 months from when they're birth. It's birth to butcher's 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And they'll hit 4 to 4.5 pounds in 8 weeks. At 10 weeks, they're about 5 pounds.
Gotcha. So we're looking at a couple of, really, depending on the quail that you get. Mm-hmm. If you get breeding quail already, which is a good place to start,
yeah,
you're looking at producing eggs immediately, probably another 30 days before you can start butchering by the time you get the cycle going and you get your setup going. And then the rabbits would probably be next. Mm-hmm. And then as you're doing all of this, you're growing tilapia. We're using aquaponics to grow our vegetables. That can take about, again, 9 weeks to really when you start planting. You can use seeds or you can start them ahead of time, which we can use that rabbit waste to do. And we can also go to square foot gardening and start growing in that. So you start to see where that whole system comes together.
Now, we're in Arizona, and notoriously the soil here is really high pH. And for those of you that are going to do the square foot gardening, do yourself a favor, check the soil, check what the pH is, and plan accordingly, because you might need to bring that down a lot.
Well, and what we've done is taken and gone to raised beds for most of our clients that we do aquaponics with. Mm-hmm. We'll also do some raised beds or some wicking beds, but generally with the raised beds, we say go out and get wood chips or mulch.
Okay.
And start building your own soil. Don't use what's there. Build up, add those wood chips. If you've got, even if you're in an HOA, there's a good chance there's some type of farm near you.
Yep.
Go down to the farm if it's a horse farm, or you drive around and find some goats sitting there and say, hey, can I come clean up and, start taking your waste. They're going to, half the time they put it in a dumpster. They don't care. Yeah. Find the local landscapers who are mulching all this stuff. There's a ton of resources out there that you can get for free to start building that soil. And let's not forget the waste that we produce at home.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about human manure?
No, I wasn't going there yet.
No. You're talking about banana peels and the stuff that you're not eating on the kitchen table.
Absolutely. All the waste that's produced, anything or basically that you can eat at home, mm-hmm. shouldn't be going in the garbage.
Yeah.
That's for other things.
You can call it organic material. People don't understand. Organic doesn't mean that it's pesticide-free and all that stuff. Organic means that it's going to break down because it's hydrogen carbon based.
Absolutely. A good place to start at most people's houses is a lot of people are coffee drinkers.
That's true.
You can take and buy the good recyclable filters. Mm-hmm. You take that out of your coffee machine, you throw it in your garden, or you throw it in your composter. And now you're starting to create that really nice, rich soil.
And as I understand it, the bacteria love that.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of types of composting. Again, you can go to the website and look up some episodes we've done on composting, whether it's a bukashi composting or traditional composting where you're taking your waste and turning it. And you can even go down to the local, Lowe's, Home Depot, hardware stores, and you can find composters that you can spin and turn. And along with that, a lot of times that's where the black soldier flies will start to come from. As you get a nice, good compost going and you get that waste going and everything's working the way it's supposed to, that'll actually attract the black soldier flies, which chase away the house flies. So that's your starter colony.
That's well said. Oh my gosh, I was going to ask you something. Good thing we're live and I can't say, oh, just wait a second there, Don, while I remember what I was going to ask you. Black soldier fly larva. Oh, to talk about that, one of the great things about the black soldier fly larva is common houseflies lay their eggs right in the food.
Yeah, because they're not actually eating the waste. They're eating the byproduct of the waste.
That's right. They're eating the bacteria, if I'm not right.
Yeah, whatever's breaking that down, versus a black soldier fly who's actually going in and devouring the waste itself. So, again, let's go back to that. You have an aquaponics system, or you go out and get some fish, some fresh salmon or something from the grocery store. You take those bones and that waste and throw it into the black soldier flies. If you were just going to compost it, you'd expect that to really smell in probably 3 days. with black soldier flies, it's gone in 24 hours. They're actually eating it. There's no smell to them. And in fact, the smell they produce is not a very bad smell. It's a kind of a sweet smell, I guess is the best way to describe it. And that really will vary depending on what you're feeding them. We don't want to feed them only rabbit manure. We want to supplement with that.
You want to give your grubs a nice balanced diet.
Yeah, we've actually found, I don't do a whole lot of composting because we do black soldier flies and we just don't have much waste after that. What we do have and kind of the solid waste that they produce actually goes into a worm bin.
Yeah,
where we'll
worm
raise
colonies.
earthworm colony, and along with the rabbit waste and some other things. So we're not doing a whole lot of composting, but it's a really good way to start. It's a good way, even if it's on a small scale. You go back and look at like bokashi, which is Morgan, the bokashi evolution.
Yes.
All right. So a local supplier of bokashi, and you can actually do that inside your house. You can start with a 5-gallon bucket. It doesn't smell.
A closed 5-gallon bucket. So there's no, if you're smelling it, that means you're losing the ability to compost with the bokashi.
Right.
So you close it up, and if there's, oh gosh, I can't remember what she said. Go to the tag cloud on the website, WeGrowOurs.com. There's a tag cloud, and composting is one of them.
Yeah, listen to the episode.
Exactly. Listen to the episode. She'll tell you a lot more about it. One of the quotes that I really liked, this is what I was going to say earlier. We had Will Allen on, and he used a phrase with composting that I loved. He didn't say, "Oh, you accumulate compost, you compost anything." He says, "You grow compost.
You grow your own soil."
That's recognizing the soil as a living organism, and that is cool. When you're in the desert, the soil looks pretty much dead, and in most cases it is.
Right.
But you can cultivate that and make it alive.
So I think that composting is really probably one of the best places to start, even if you're in an HOA or on a balcony, because you can use that and go to pots and grow your food in there, maybe 1 or 2 little rabbits. You've got your protein, the quail along with that. So even you can imagine, even in an apartment with a small little balcony, what you can grow, and you can even create a small aquaponics system. So you don't need a lot of area to start producing food. You may not produce enough food for, a family of 12, but you probably supplement your salads for, the year.
Yep. Well, and in my, in my backyard, I did the math on it, and every 36 square feet, I could grow 5,700 pounds of rabbit a year. So, you're not limited. In fact, I've got a guy in downtown Phoenix that is growing around 1,200 pounds of rabbit a year in his 800 square foot apartment.
Yeah, and that's just the meat.
That's right.
Now imagine what you can do when you start taking that waste and growing other foods. Out here you can grow kale and spinaches, and those are fast growing things. We do a lot of broccoli and just all sorts of tomatoes and everything else. So by getting a system that works together and integrating everything, you're taking the waste and you don't have any. It's a lot of fun too.
That's right. Now, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about the ducks and a couple other options when you're in an HOA.
Absolutely.
What will you do when your stored supplies run out? Are you prepared? Hostile Hair provides equipment and education you need to control your own infinite food supply. We have live food storage systems for rabbits, quail, and other urban livestock for any situation and strategy. Don't be limited by what's on the shelves. Get started with an infinite food source today. Get prepped, stay fed with Hostile Hair. Call 480-331-3761, 480-331-3761, or visit hostlehair.com.
Lock and load. This is the We Grow Ours show.
Man, those 30 seconds go quick. I'm going to record a longer commercial. Or we need more, whatever.
Yeah, I think we need more sponsors.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, hint.
Yeah, anybody out there want to sponsor our show? It'd be nice. Anyway, this is the We Grow Ours show, and we're talking about livestock integration. That's using rabbits, quail, and fish linked together in systems, basically recycle nutrition. And really, we're going for a net zero system.
Yeah, and the fodder along with that. So let's talk a little bit about, if you have a little bit of land, what else can you do?
Well, you could always go out and conventionally buy a big Angus steer and turn it loose on your property.
Yeah, we're in Arizona. That's pretty tough. We don't have a lot of grazing land out here.
Well, if you got a nice irrigated spot and you can afford that, but the reality is you'd be better off doing rabbit tractors, I think.
Yeah, we stick with micro livestock for the most part where we are. We only have, like I said, 1.25 acres, so it's not a ton, but it gives us the room for the goats.
Didn't you just buy a horse?
No, we actually were granted a horse.
Granted a horse?
Yes, given a horse.
Oh, like
yeah.
What does that mean? Granted
Inherited.
A horse?
That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Inherited a horse.
You inherited a horse.
Yeah, but that's not really anything to do with livestock.
I'm sorry. If you can sense it, I'm a little jealous of the property that Don's running over there.
You can come over and ride anytime you want.
Yeah, you're only 75 miles away from my house.
Well,
sure,
and
why not?
Last time Nick came over to my house, he filmed Doomsday Prepper, and he left a big bucket of crap in my backyard. And I think we're allowed to say that, right?
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
a metal gasifier in my front yard, and they're still sitting there. So you really should come over and see the horse,
Yeah, I'll drive up there in the Civics, and you can't put anything in the back.
So we actually, though, we do use that horse waste. We've started to. We've only had them a few weeks now, but that's going to go into our plan as well. I don't want to fill up the dumpster. What I want to do is take that and again, start growing soil. Along with the goats, we have their waste, and we use shavings for that. We have about 30 chickens. We use the shavings in their chicken pen as well. And the coop, that's the word I was looking for.
That's the
Couldn't
one.
remember. I'm not good with words either.
Oh, gosh.
So, all of that comes down and gets broken down, and that's more of the type of composting that we're doing. We're using that type of waste. And then if you can throw a banana peel in there every once in a while.
Now, I wanted to ask you, I know just enough of aquaponics that I could carry on a decent conversation. But one of the things that has always intrigued me is the mixing of aquaponics with a soil system in your wicking beds.
Yes.
And could you take a minute and just explain what a wicking bed is?
So a wicking bed is taking soil, generally a couple inches of soil. Underneath that, you'll have, let's say, some hay or straw to keep that soil up. And then we use rocks like rose stone or even river rock and larger stuff. And we put it on a bottom. So it's in a container. Generally, we use the same type of things as we do for grow beds. So about 12 inches. We get about 8 inches of soil and then some rocks in there. Now, there's some, in the aquaponics industry, there's some debate on this. What we found is I believe in filtering. I always have. So I believe that you need to use filtering, not just media beds, but actual filtering. So like what we do, a swirl filter, a radial flow filter, other types of filters, even a pond filter. We take that waste that water that's filled with waste out of the filters, and we put it into the wicking bed, and we actually have a pipe sticking up that runs along the middle and the bottom of that wicking bed. By adding the water to that, we can fill it up, and we put a little drain hole on the other side. So once it hits maybe 2 inches, we know that it's already full. Water comes out. So we're not actually running a closed loop system with that, which is aquaponics is generally a closed loop, 1 or 2 closed loop systems, but we're taking the waste and putting it in there that's filled with nutrition, and then the soil and the straw will actually pull and wick the water up to the top.
Okay. So it's more of like charging a soiled system then.
Yeah, and I think, we're growing the root vegetables in that because traditionally aquaponics, you can grow pretty much anything. But it's really tough sometimes to do the root vegetables.
Don't they like grab your media and stuff?
Yeah, they can grab your media and they just don't come out right. They'll come out short or they'll come out really fat or, they'll grow all over the place.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, Don? Huh?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, there.
So we do the potatoes and carrots and onions and chives and all of those types of root vegetables are really good in the wicking bed.
Okay. That's something I want to play with. I've got so many ideas. Aquaponics we're going to have to do an episode just on aquaponics because it's something that I really want to know more about.
There's a group that we've kind of be members of on Facebook, I guess. And we're going to have Roger come on and talk more about aquaponics. We've done already one show with him. Again, WeGrowOurs.com, and you can go look at the tag cloud. And again, if you have questions, you can always go to WeGrowOurs.com/ask-us. You can fill out the form. You can record your question, and we'll put it on the air. The other option is if you're interested in having consulting done, Nick and I actually do that as well. That's why we have the show.
That's
so
right.
You can fill that form out, and we'll help you decide what works in your area and what doesn't. where to put it, what to put in there, and how to integrate everything.
That's right. We've been doing this for a while now. I've been in animal husbandry since I could walk, so this is kind of second nature to me. I love dealing with animals, love working with them. It's very rewarding. And if you're thinking about getting a pet and you want something that's quiet, you want something that's going to serve a purpose, you can move it towards a purpose pet, I'd say get a rabbit.
Yeah, even if it's just to use the waste. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not going to eat it.
Yeah, even if you are a vegan and want to rescue a rabbit from me, that'll be $30. You can just give me a call and we'll get you set up.
Now, I will say that the meat rabbits they're not always the friendliest breeds because you generally...
There's a few of them that are, though.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty skittish ones, too.
Yeah, and it's all about if you handle them from birth.
Absolutely.
They'll get used to you and everything's fine that way. But yeah, some of mine, when I was raising, right now I don't have the full 1,600 head, but when I had that, they weren't getting the hands-on attention, which they didn't need.
Right.
They were perfectly happy with me leaving them the heck alone. But they're not as personable either. Even when I started with 5, there was one that bit my hand real bad, and she became dinner like 15 seconds after she bit me. It was just one.
So those 4 listeners just left.
Yeah, we just lost them.
So all right, so let's recap. We've actually talked about the rabbits, the quail, the aquaponics, what to do with those waste. So let's talk about how you can integrate things like ducks. So most people think ducks, I need a real big pond.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
No. In fact, I had 14 ducks in my little backyard in my HOA.
And they're quiet, aren't they?
They are. Well, okay, this is breed selection, though. Don't go out and get some runners or some Pekings or anything like that because they're going to quack, quack, quack all day long. Mine were Muscovies.
That's right.
Muscovy ducks are quiet. In fact, when they get mad at each other, they will open up their wings as far as they can and they squeak. And it's so cute to watch this big duck. And they're huge. They're about the size of a goose. And the males are anyways. The females are a wee bit smaller, but they get in each other's faces and start squeaking. It's pretty funny.
And they're waterless too.
That's right. They've got claws. Yeah,
they've got little claws on their feet. They're awesome. They're really good meat birds if you are in for the meat, but they lay some amazing eggs too.
Oh,
and if there's any people that bake out there, like cakes, and call us because we'll come over and eat it.
Yes. Might mention something on the air if you've got a bakery.
Yeah, you can always bring us some food, no problem. So those Muscovy ducks make these eggs that are the most amazing baking eggs. It makes everything come out fluffy and yummy. So you've got a really good source right there as well. They don't need any water other than the drinking water.
Yeah.
Now we supply ours a little bit of water, a little pond. Basically,
they'll bathe if they have the option, but they don't really need it.
We got it at Home Depot as one of those concrete tubs that you mix the concrete in.
Oh yeah.
So and that's put some
some
cinder block around it so they have some steps, and put some in it so they can get out, and they love that thing. So something small like that you can do. And ducks are messy.
Yeah.
As far as not eating, but their waste. It's not a little piece of chicken poop. So I don't mean to talk about poop, but we do that a lot on this show.
Yeah, we're poop experts. No, not really.
Maybe Nick is.
No.
So we can take something like that, and a really good start to this is if you're going to build a little fence, which you don't need much to keep the ducks in. You put a little pond in there, build a little fence where you're going to put your garden. Or if you have enough space that you can rotate your garden yearly, keep all the chickens and ducks on one side of your property, and then the following year that would be where you plant. Move them over to the other side. So
give it time to kind of break down.
Yeah, because like the chickens scratch constantly, the ducks poop constantly, the chickens do as well. So now, as far as rotating your livestock back and forth, if you do have goats or you can do that, it's a good idea to keep them in one spot, one side, then move them the next year, and you're going to condition your soil year after year after year. You throw those shavings down, the hay down, the whole 9 yards.
So an interesting fact about the Muscovy ducks, they stay awake at night. If you give them a little, they'll sleep all night, but if they're not like chickens where they're completely dormant. I had a light on in my backyard, and they'd sit underneath of it and nip at the bugs. And when I had all those ducks, I never had anything come into the house. I had no cockroaches, crickets, nothing would make it past those ducks.
Yeah, chickens are really good insect hunters as well.
They are, but when the cockroaches come out is nighttime.
And the chickens are up in the coop.
Exactly. So these ducks are sitting there, and they're my little watchdog ducks. They took care of all of the bugs.
You know, speaking of taking care of bugs, so the chickens take care of the daytime and the ducks take care of nighttime. If you have the room and you can do it, if you've got ants, you take your quail, your Cotornic quail, and you put the cage out, not direct sun, obviously, but put it out where the ant hills are. They love the ants.
Oh, man, that sounds like
They're the
fun.
only ones that we found so far that will eat ants.
Oh, wow.
The chickens don't.
I'll have to design a cage system that you can drag over ant hills.
Yeah, a quail tractor.
Yeah, I like it. We'll announce that on the next show.
So there's also, if you've got one other trick that you can do is if you've got a house with a pool and you don't use it, you can actually turn that into an entirely integrated system. So that's another option out there for people.
Yeah, if you want to turn your $30,000 swimming pool into a nice pond to grow tilapia and everything else, that's what I would do. But
yeah, that's scary, isn't it? Let me build this. I want to build a pool just to use it for aquaponics.
Well, it's awful. My wife's like, oh, we can get one with the pool. I was like, if I can grow fish in it, we'll get a pool. I don't want to swim with fish. Oh, come on, honey. It'll be fun. I don't want to. She talks just like that, too.
Oh, before I forget, we were talking about black soldier flies, and I know I'm going back already, but we have that video on black soldier flies on our website of 2 full trout, one cooked, one uncooked, being put in with a colony, about 5,000 black soldier flies. And it's a time-lapse video. So if you get a chance, go to WeGrowOurs.com, look up black soldier fly. It's BSF, I believe, is what it would be in the tag cloud. And you can actually see that video. And I'll try and post it again this week as well. And if you go to Facebook.com/WeGrowOurs, I'll go ahead and post it there. And then we're also on Twitter at Twitter.com/WeGrowOurs or at WeGrowOurs.
Oh, look at you, all twittering and Facebooking and stuff. Technology's beyond me. No, just kidding. So yeah, that's we do a quick recap here. You start with barley or wheat seeds. You grow fodder. You feed them to rabbits. The rabbits poop. You give that to the black soldier fly larva. The black soldier fly larva are then fed to quail and to fish in an aquaponics system. And the quail can also be fed barley to up their feed amount. The fish and quail manure go through the system and produce, basically the manure produces food for the plants that are growing in the aquaponics system. And then after that, what's the next step?
You're done. Eat.
That's it. You eat. That's the best. Well, we plan on having more episodes like this about rabbits, quail, fish, maybe a little bit more in depth on each subject.
In fact, next Sunday we have Greg and Kari on the show talking about a summit coming up. So it's the Grow Phoenix Food Summit. Yep. And they're going to teach you, if you have a little area or a big area, how to go out and do this in your own property. So check that out next week on Sunday from 1 to 2.
Well, thank you, folks, for joining the WeGrowOurs show. We'll catch you next week. So long.